What the hell is up, everybody? Louis back here again for an exciting night of fights. Arguably the best card of the year. UFC 296, 170-pound welterweight championship fight. Leon Rocky Edwards making his second title defense against Colby Chaos Covington. Colby does not deserve his title shot, but he's getting it anyway. If Colby can beat Leon Edwards, does Kamaru get another title shot? Who knows? 170 might be in chaos. You also got two other 170 fights. Well, there's another one scheduled, but it fell off. But you got number 5, Shavkat Rakhmonov taking on number 6, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Who knows if it's an impressive fight, who knows what will happen with the main event. And then what's going on with Bilal Muhammad weighing in as a backup, who knows. But in the co-main event at 125 pounds, men's flyweight, you got Alejandro the Cannibal Pantoja taking on Brandon Raw Dog Royval. A rematch from only a few years ago. We'll see how much better Royval got. A very exciting night of fights. You got Bryce Mitchell taking on Josh Emmett, stepping in last minute notice. And then one low-key one I'm excited for, light heavyweight, 2 guys at the bottom of the rankings, Alonzo MENIFIELD and Dustin Jacoby. Dustin Jacoby trying to regain that win streak. He lost a close one to Chloe Roundtree. And Alonzo MENIFIELD, he's on it. You know, he's won a couple in a row. He's beat Jimmy Crute, so we'll see what can happen here. First fight of the night was welterweight. Brady Brown fell off. Heavyweight, 265 pounds, the big boys. You got Martin Buday taking on Shamil GAZIEV. Should be interesting, too. Actually, Martin Buday, he's on a roll. So, it could be a big one for him. We'll see. But Martin Buday took on Josh Parisian in his last fight. In that fight, a pretty good one. Really quick win for him. He was able to rock him with some left hooks in the pocket up against the fence, and he's able to get the underhook against the fence. And then he's able to stuff a shot, gets like a power half from the front type of deal. And then he gets into side control, and then goes for the Kimura submission, steps around his head and all. Really good stuff. Whenever a heavyweight has submission skills, that's dangerous. And then Shamil GAZIEV, he took on Greg Velasco from Dana White's Contender Series. In the first round, he drops him with the right cross. Kind of gets like a wrestling cradle. But then he gives up his back. But then he's able to turn into him. And he's able to get half guard in transitions to a mount. Lands some nasty ground and pound. Then he's able to take his back when he turns over. Gets a rear naked choke submission. 2 heavyweights coming off a submission victories. Pretty exciting in my opinion. Shamil GAZIEV is plus 115. And Martin Buday is minus 130. Actually, no. The updated rankings, Shamil GAZIEV is plus 100, and Martin Buday is minus 120. This is a close one. I kind of want to bet Shamil GAZIEV, but it's close to 120. Like, it's not enough for me to take the underdog. And Martin Buday is coming off a 4-fight win streak, and he looked really good his last fight. So I'm going to go with the experience, and we'll go Martin Buday because we know he's got 3-round cardio at least, so minus 120. I'm going to go with Martin Buday. Second fight of the night, 145 pounds, men's featherweight, Andre FILI trying to get back on track, taking on Lucas Almeida, also trying to get back on track. Andre FILI took on Nathaniel Wood his last fight. It was a thriller. In the first round, he drops him with left cross, but then he throws a cross and followed it up with the left head kick, but then he gets dropped with the right cross, stepping in on his left cross. Then in the second round, he gets rocked with a jab off of his step-in jab. Just kind of extended his chin a little bit too much. But then he's able to drop him with the check lead left hook off of Nathaniel's uppercut. And then he gets the tie clinch, lands some knees to the body, and then he's able to take his back. But then he gets reversed. But then he's able to regain top again. So decent scrambling ability from him. Then in the third round, he lands some counter lunge-in jabs coming from range. But then he heats a left hook to the body, and then to the head whenever he's stepping in for his jabs in the pocket. Kind of leads with his chin sometimes. It kind of oversteps, and Nathaniel was able to hit some wind-up power shots. But then he eats a jab whenever he's sliding in, kind of has his hands down, kind of showing off a little bit. So, close fight, third round, really close. Lucas Almeida took on Pat Sabatini his last fight. In the first round, he gets clinched up against the fence with an underhook and then gets body lock tripped right into half guard. And then he gives up mount and he eats some ground and pound, but he's able to defend the Kimura attempt. Then in the second round, he gets body locked again off of a step-in cross, oversteps. And then he gets lifted up off the fence. He gives up half guard. Then he gets submitted with an arm triangle. So, not a whole lot there. Pat Sabatini's a pretty solid grappler at the lower level. Lucas Almeida, plus 145. Andre FILI, minus 175. I don't really love the line here, but I just don't see anything to bet on Lucas Almeida. And Andre Fili's got, some decent grappling ability we saw in the last fight, and he's got some power. The only thing I worry about is his chin. Is Lucas Almeida, can he crack him? I don't know, but Nathaniel Wood's pretty good, and Andre Fili had a slobber knocker with him, so minus 175, a little pricey, but I'm going to go with Andre Fili. I think he can get back on track here. I think he outstrikes him, and I think he can take him down as well. I think it'll be useful for him to throw in some double legs. Third fight of the night, 125 pounds, men's flyweight. Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Cody Durden. This is a fun one. Two up-and-comers, two guys on a little bit of a roll. Ulanbekov trying to build himself back up after the close loss to Tim Elliott. And Cody Durden, he had that tough loss to Muhammad Makayev, but he's been on a roll lately. And if he can get this one done, then he might be looking at ranked competition next. Ulanbekov took on Nate Manessa's last fight in the first round. He backs out of some looping shots, but then he pressures toward the fence, and he gets a single leg right into full guard, and then he gets right into the front head, high elbow, guillotine, standing submission. So he just pulled that off, and he can get the first round finish if you're not careful. And then before that, he took on Tim Elliott. In the first round, he lands some front kicks and some jabs, but then he gets double leg off the fence, but then he lands some step in and right crosses standing at range, and then he's able to land a front face kick. He's able to stuff the double leg attempt, uses a whizzer, and then he's able to use the butterfly attempt to get up, though, off a takedown attempt. So pretty good get up ability. Cody Durden's a decent wrestler. But then kind of out of nowhere, he gets dropped with a overhand left at range. So, yeah. And Cody Durden can crack a little bit. Cody Durden took on Jake Hadley his last fight. It was another fun one. In the first round, he rips the body, but then he gets clipped with a couple jabs, but then he's able to back out of range. But then he gets pressed up to the fence, but then he's able to land an overhand. He's able to catch the kick, and then he's able to get up on top and kind of win the scrambles. And then in the second round, he gets a blast double off of his kick and right in the half guard. But then back up on the feet, he backs up and lands some jabs and some 1-2. Start ripping the body when Jake Hadley presses him a little bit. And then he's able to stuff the shot. Goes for an anaconda attempt. Decent attempt. Had it pretty tight. But then he gives up his back and he gets caught in a deep armbar where Jake Hadley has his stomach against the mat. So it was a pretty close one, but Cody Durden did not want to tap. So then in the third round, he gets pressed, but then he eats a left hook, but then he's able to land some lunge right crosses whenever he's on his back foot, whenever he gets pressured. But then he walks into a single from the front headlock position, but then he's able to sprawl, and he's able to get the pancake and end around on top. So, yeah, pretty competitive fight. Good, some good scrambles. Cody Durden had some power in that fight as well, and was able to not tap on a deep armbar. Cody Durden plus 140, Tagir Ulanbekov minus 165. I thought from the looks of it, you think Ulanbekov is like a superior wrestler, but, I don't really think so. I mean, Tim Elliott was taking him down. Cody Durden, not the best wrestler, but he mixes it in well. And Cody Durden's got a pretty good gas tank. Of course, he's going to get tired, but so does Ulanbekov. I would say this is about an even fight, maybe. I think maybe Ulanbekov might catch him in a submission, but I think Cody Durden's going to prepare for that. Plus 140. I lost out on Cody Durden as an underdog before, and I don't want to do it again. I think this could be a 3-round knockdown, drag him out, and in that case, plus 140 sounds good. I'm going to go with Cody Durden. First fight on the regular prelims, 125 pounds, women's flyweight, Casey O'Neill trying to get back on track here after a rough injury, taking on Ariane Lipski, who's on a little bit of a roll after a slight setback. Casey O'Neill took on Jennifer Maia her last fight in the first round. She eats some 1-2s off of some lunge overhands, but then she's able to land a step in right cross, counter off of her hook. Her kick gets caught, and she's able to stuff the takedown anyway, but she eats a straight off of her overhand right. But then in the second round, she lands a left hook and then an overhand right, but then she eats a left hook and a straight right, and Maya's throwing that hook straight combo, uppercut combo, whenever Casey would press in the pocket a lot. But then she eats a left to the body and a hook combination and a front kick. But then the clinch gets reversed, and then she eats some hooks up against the fence, but then she's able to land a couple step-in jabs from range, starts to find her timing and her range finally, but it's at the end of the round. But then in the third round, she gets body locked off of her overhand, but she gives up her back, but pretty good takedown defense, does not get taken down, is able to make her way to the fence, good mat awareness, but then she's able to land an overhand right, and then a left hook, followed up with a nice left head kick, but she lands a 1-2 and then a jab, counter jab off of Maya's straight right, and ended it with a decent flurry. But, Maya just kind of out-pressured, out-volumed her, but it was a pretty competitive fight. Ariana Lipski took on Melissa Gatto her last fight. In the first round, she pressures up against the fence, but then she walks into a couple jabs. She throws some jabs, and then she's able to land a right hook at the end. Then in the second round, she gets clinched up to the fence with an over-under, but then she's able to hit a nice hip toss. She's not able to hold her down, though, but then she gets taken out. She gets body locked up against the fence again, but is able to work her way out of it eventually. Then she's able to land a counter left hook off of her 1-2, and then she's able to land a 1-2, follows up with a head kick from range. Then in the third round, she lands a lead right hook, right-left hook combination at range, and then she's able to land a counter right hook off of her overhand. She gives up her back standing, but then she's able to swim out of it, and she's able to take top. Whenever she threw her kick, and she was able to get around her back, but, didn't really cost her too much. Ariana Lipski is plus 155, and Casey O'Neill is minus 185, and I think Casey O'Neill's the better striker. I think she's fundamentally sound. Ariana Lipski, a little wild. She's kind of looking for some power shots. Neither one grapples a ton, but I might give the edge to Casey O'Neill. But it's like prospective level women's MMA. And minus 185 for Casey O'Neill coming off an injury is a little too much. And I just don't like it. Ariana Lipski might be able to crack her a couple times or something, but Casey O'Neill can definitely take a shot. So Casey O'Neill is favored. That's who I think's probably going to win, but I don't feel confident enough, especially at that price tag. Ariana Lipski plus 155. Why not? Let's take a shot. Second fight on the regular prelims, 135 pounds, men's bantamweight. This is a fun one. Both guys kind of need a win here, and it's kind of like a get-right spot. It's actually a big opportunity for Brian Kelleher, kind of a get-right spot. It's do or die for Cody Garbrandt, actually, but could be fun. Cody Garbrandt taking on Brian Boom Boom Kelleher. Cody Garbrandt took on Trevin Jones his last fight. This was a get-right fight for him, and depending on who you ask, I don't think it went well for him. But in the first round, he lands a overhand right off of his kick, and he circles along the outside for a lot of that round. Does not do much of anything, really. Then in the second round, he lands a body kick, and he's able to... He throws a duck and then throws a hook and then to a blast double, but he's not able to hold him down very long. But it's still nice to see him add that into his game. He just gets that level change right underneath his hook. But then he feints a leg kick and then he hits another blast double and he gets his back up against the fence. But then in the third round, he gets pressed and he eats some left and right hooks standing at range. But then he's able to throw a lunge overhand right, but then he misses and he eats a 1-2 and he's able to get the clinch, but then he gets taken out with a trip and that ends on bottom. But yeah, I mean, he got rocked pretty bad, but Trevin Jones currently capitalized off of it, and he was able to survive, but he just didn't do much of anything, I didn't like that performance from him, honestly. Then Brian Kelleher took on Mario Batista. This fight with Cody will be a little over a year, over a year layoff, coming off a neck surgery. But Brian Kelleher took on Mario Batista's last fight. In the first round, he circles into a wheel kick to the body, and then he gets pressed with a 1-2, but then he circles up against the fence. But then he gets taken down with the snatch single, but then he's able to work his way back up to his feet, but then he gets front tripped, and he tries to go for the guillotine, but then he gives up mount, and then he gives up his back and gets submitted with the rear naked choke. So what are you going to do? Brian Boom Boom Kelleher is kind of a get or get got type of guy when it comes to submissions, I guess, because in his next fight, and then his last fight before that, he took on, I forget who he took on. He took on Muhammad Makayev, I believe, right? Yeah, he took on Umar Nurmagomedov is who he took on his last fight. And, yeah, same deal, gets submitted in the first round. So he just, whenever he wrestles those tough grapplers with killer submission skills, it kind of seems like he just doesn't have confidence in himself. But Cody Garbrandt's not that guy, so we don't really got to worry too much. But before that, he took on Kevin Krum up at 145, and I thought he looked really good in this fight. In the first round, he eats a 1-2 and a body kick, and then he gets blitzed to the fence. But then he gets clinched, but then he's able to pummel his way out of it, and he kind of takes a lot of adversity early, but then he's able to work his way through it and really does good at the end of the round. And then he drops him with the step-in right hook off of his cross, but then he gets clipped with the cross off of his hook, and then he eats a couple leg kicks. But then he's able to land a left uppercut to the body. But then he lands a back fist and then a right hook in the pocket, and then he's able to get the snatch single and the round on top, really mixing it in there, really finding his range and finding his timing for that takedown at the end of that first round. Brian Kelleher is plus 155. Cody Garbrandt is minus 185. And You know, if it was an even odds, I'd probably go with Cody Garbrandt, and I think he should be the favorite. But, you know, Brian Kelleher might crack him, dude, you know. And Brian Kelleher can wrestle a little bit. Cody Garbrandt isn't a dangerous submission artist. I think it's closer than people think, honestly. And Cody Garbrandt's chin is still an issue. Trevin Jones hurt him really bad his last fight. Plus 155. I'm going to go with Brian Kelleher. I think he might be able to crack him with something. I don't know how many rounds it'll go, but I think it's either Brian Kelleher knocks him out, or I think Brian Kelleher could win a close split decision. Plus 155, Brian Boom Boom Kelleher. Next fight on the prelims, 135 pounds. Women's bantamweight, Irene Aldana coming off her loss against Amanda Nunes for the title, taking on Karol Rosa, an up-and-comer in the weight class. Irene Aldana took on Amanda Nunes her last fight in the first round, and she gets pressed with some jabs and some 1-2s at range. She really doesn't do much of anything this entire fight, but then she eats a left and right hook, but then she's able to rock her with the counter right hook, and that was about all she did. So she landed one big punch to keep Amanda off her, and that was kind of it. She looked very gun-shy the whole fight. In the second round, she eats some lunge jabs and some front kicks. And then she's very heavy on her lead leg, and she was eating leg kicks and oblique kicks on that leg, like for pretty much the whole fight. But then she kept getting taken out with snatch singles throughout the fight. But Amanda, for the first 3 rounds, like didn't get on top of her for whatever reason. But then she lands a step-in left cross, but then she eats some hooks and a knee to the head. Then in the third round, she eats some step-in crosses from Amanda and some front kicks. But then she walks into a double, and then she gives up half guard. But then she's able to work her way back up. But then she gets taken out again with a body lock trip, and then gives her back. But she's able to swim out of it, but couldn't capitalize on it. Just got back to her feet. And just got outstruck on the feet, basically. Karol Rosa took on Yana Santos her last fight. In the first round, she lands an overhand right, gets into the tie clinch, and then she throws some hooks in the pocket, and then she gets body locked to the fence. She throws her hooks really wide and kind of leaves herself open for the clinch. But then she walks into a 1-2 and then a front kick. But then she's able to throw a right hook. And then she gets clinched off of there, though. She just kind of loads up a little too much. And Yana Santos is a clinch specialist also, so that was what was happening. But she was able to defend this later on in the fight. But then she lands a jab and an overhand right. But then in the second round, she lands a 1-2 up against the fence. But then she gets clinched up again. But then she's able to start sitting down on her hooks in the pocket and start really throwing and connecting with some shots. And she lands a red cross up against the fence, and then she's able to land a nice head kick. She's able to finally cut her off and stay out of the clinch. Then in the third round, she lands a right cross to the fence, followed up with a knee and an elbow, and then she stalks forward with some right crosses, and she's able to land a 1-2 whenever she gets pressed. And it looked really good. It looks like she got success. She got better, a little bit better as the fight went on each round, actually. Karol Rosa plus 160, and Irene Aldana minus 190. Yeah, dude, this is women's bantamweight. Even if it is the highest level, because Irene just fought for the title, it doesn't matter. Karol Rosa looked good. Irene Aldana did nothing her last fight. Plus 160. Sign me up. Karol Rosa. Main event of the prelims, 205 pounds, men's light heavyweight. 2 guys battling for a ranking here. Both guys on a win streak. Alonzo MENIFIELD taking on Dustin Jacoby. Dustin Jacoby trying to get back on track after the Khalil Roundtree loss, taking out Kennedy and Zechikwu. And also from falling to Mirzakhanov, taking out Kennedy and Zechikwu in devastating fashion. Alonzo MENIFIELD, he had that draw with Jimmy Crute where I thought he looked amazing. And, you know, he got the finish over Jimmy Crute. So I think this is going to be a fun fight, honestly. I think somebody might get knocked out. Alonzo MENIFIELD took on Jimmy Crute's last fight for the second time. In the first round, he lands a 1-2 off of Jimmy's kick. He's able to stuff the single with double unders up against the fence. He does this a lot. His takedown defense looks really good. Dustin Jacoby not going to shoot too many takedowns. But then he's able to separate, and he's able to land a nice 1-2. Then in the second round, he lands a step-in jab and then a straight right off of his front kick. And then he lands some step-in jabs from range. But he's able to land a 1-2 off of his hook. And he's able to stuff the single. And then he gets a top guillotine, runs it over, gets on top, gets a submission. So Alonzo MENIFIELD is dangerous, man. He's got power, and I'm excited. And Dustin Jacoby took on Kennedy and Zechikwu his last fight. In the first round, he circles along the outside. He lands some 1-2s when he's moving backwards. He lands a step-in jab, but then he gets touched with a cross, but he's all good, keeps moving. But then he drops him with a straight right off of his left cross and then gets a TKO via ground and pound. Who would have thought? Kennedy and Zechikwu might have had chin issues, but, you know, Dustin Jacoby getting a knockout in the first round over him. Kennedy and Zechikwu was on a roll, so very impressive. But before that, you know, he struggled. He took on Azamat Mirzakhanov in the first round. He pumps a long jab, and he has a wide stance, and then he gets pressed back with some overhands and a couple jabs, but then he gets dropped with a step-in jab, but then he eats a bunch of shots up against the fence, kind of takes a beating, but then he gets taken down with the snatch single off of his hook, but then he goes for he uses the guillotine and is able to get up, so I like seeing that. But then he eats a jab and a body shot at range, then he's able to get the single, but then goes for a single, but then he eats some hooks, but he's able to land a 1-2, so let's go to the single and lands a combo, so pretty sneaky. But the thing that frustrates me about that fight against Dustin Jacoby is that in the third round, Dustin Jacoby cracked him with a good shot. He rocked him a little bit, and then he goes for takedowns, and he needs a finish in the third round. So, I don't know, man. His IQ is questionable. So, Dustin Jacoby minus 270. Alonzo Menifield plus 220. Dustin Jacoby is the more technically superior striker, obviously, but, you know, Alonzo Menifield's got power. He can crack. Dustin Jacoby has questionable IQ. Dustin Jacoby, his chin holds up, but he does get dropped, and, you know, if Dustin Jacoby's outlanding Alonzo, but Alonzo drops him a couple times in a round, he could steal the round. Plus 220, honestly, that's kind of disrespectful, I think, and it's 205. Anything can happen. Plus 220, I'm going with Alonzo Menifield. He might even be able to get a knockout. Who knows? But yeah. First fight of the main card, the pay-per-view, the new first fight on the pay-per-view. At 145 pounds, it's been promoted from the prelims. Men's featherweight. Number 6, Josh Emmett taking on number 10, Bryce the Twister Mitchell. Stepping in on about a week and a half's notice. This is a fun one. Josh Emmett, you know, he ran into some good guys, but he's taking some losses. Bryce Mitchell, you know, he's trying to bounce back off of the Topuria loss, and Topuria's fighting for the title, so that loss doesn't look so bad anymore. So it's an interesting fight, and it could go a couple different ways, but I'm excited. It's an important fight to each guy. So Josh Emmett took on Ilia Topuria his last fight in the first round. He loads up on some lunge overhand rights, but he just swings and misses most of the times, or he might barely clip him. But then he ducks it straight, and he comes up with the left hook, but then he eats a right hook off of his overhand, but then he eats some jabs and an uppercut up against the fence. He's able to duck under the jab, and he lands a left hook, but it's not really flush. And then he starts adding in some leg kicks here and there, but he's not consistent with them. And I think that could have helped to slow Ilia down. But then the second round, he lands a lunge right and left hook, but then he misses. He just kind of like steps forward and throws them, and most of them miss. But then he eats a right hook off of his leg kick, and then he blitzes with some uppercuts to the body and the head, and they kind of connect, but not a ton. He doesn't really follow up after that. And he's able to land a 4-punch combo off of a step-in leg kick. He eats a straight hook and then a 4-punch combo off of a step-in leg kick. He threw like a negative leg kick. And Ilia's hand speed was just so much faster than his. But then he misses a right cross, but then he eats a right and left hooks, and he gets dropped with that. And just kind of, he'll get caught in those hook combinations and ate a bunch of shots. But then he eats a counter right hook off of his lunge overhand left. Then in the third round, he gets pressed with some jabs, but then he's able to land a counter left hook off of a hook combo whenever he exits, and he lands a right to the body and a left to the head. But then he eats some straights, he ducks down, and he throws a looping right and left hooks. But then he's able to rip the body off of his jab, and he lands a jab and a straight right to the body. And it looked pretty, you know, looked solid in the third round, but he was always getting hit more. And he didn't ever try to go for the takedowns, which is what bothers me about that fight. Bryce Mitchell took on Dan Ige his last fight. It was a must-win for him. In the first round, he lands a left cross and gets a snatch. High C gets the crackdown. Goes for it, but it gets stuffed. But then he gets pressed with some lunge right crosses. But then he's able to get a double to the body lock trip off of the fence. Gets right into mount. Actually works his way methodically into mount, so I like that. And he's going for dominant positions. He's not just trying to hang on. And he's working for the submission in the back of his head. But then in the second round, he gets pressed with a 1-2 and a right hook, but he's able to shoot the single, and then he transitions to the over-under in the clinch, but then he eats a lead left hook whenever he's circling. But then he gets pancaked off of his body lock attempt, but he gets a double to the body lock trip whenever he gets pressed with a hook, and then he's able to get to the mount, and he's able to take his back, gets one hook in, and then he gets both of them in, and then he's able to transition to mount. Kind of goes for the arm triangle from mount, doesn't really fully commit to it, but he was thinking about it. Then in the third round, he lands a body kick and gets a double off the fence, but he's able to take his back, gets the body triangle in there, and he's able to get a mat return, and then he gets a double, but then he gets reversed off of a reshot scramble, and Danny gets on top for maybe 45, 50 seconds, but couldn't do any damage. So yeah, looked really good. He ate some shots. He got busted open pretty bad, but he did what he needed to do. Danny is a tough fighter. Bryce Mitchell minus 230. Josh Emmett plus 190. I don't like the short notice, but Bryce Mitchell, you know, I think his cardio is going to be better. And people forget Josh Emmett can wrestle too. But I just think Bryce Mitchell's on the rise. Josh Emmett, you know, he can land some overhands. That's about it. Josh Emmett doesn't use his wrestling a ton. I know he took down Rodriguez, but I don't think you're taking Bryce Mitchell down. And, you know, Bryce Mitchell's been known to eat some shots. I guess he cuts easily. But, yeah, it's a really tough one. I just really don't think Josh Emmett's going to win. Like, the plus 190 is a good value, but I bet on him a couple times before, and I just don't think so. And Bryce Mitchell was able to outstrike Edson Barboza, so... Like, Josh Emmett might crack him a time or two, but I think Bryce Mitchell can recover if he gets hurt. I think he'll be able to work his takedowns, maybe get the back. So, it's a little pricey, but I just really think Bryce Mitchell's going to win. It might be a stupid bet, but I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell, minus 230. Second fight on the main card at 155 pounds, men's lightweight, Tony Elka Ferguson looking to get a win here, taking on Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Paddy coming off of a year-long layoff due to injury and a controversial win, and Tony Ferguson coming off a very long losing streak, and we just want to see him get a victory, and so does he. And, you know, this is a fun fight. I think it's a winnable fight for either guy, and I think it'll be violent. Tony Ferguson took on Bobby Green his last fight. In the first round, he looks for some lunge jabs or crosses, but then he eats some straight counter shots. But then he's able to land a counter jab off of the cross. But then he drops him with the step-in overhand right off of a leg kick. But then he eats a 1-2 off of his right cross. But then in the second round, he goes for an Imanari roll, gets stuffed, and then he eats some nasty ground upon by Bobby Green. I was surprised. But then he eats some crosses off of his lunge and jabs, and then he eats some 1-2s at range. Kind of has his hands down. Just kind of walks forward for some reason. That's Tony for you. Then he's able to land a lunge straight right through Bobby's jab. And then in the third round, he eats a jab to the body and an overhand right and a left hook off of it, counter off of his jab. But then he's able to land it, step in, lead right hook. But then he walks through a couple 1-2s. He's able to cut off the cage, lands a right cross, really nice, but didn't really do a whole lot of damage. And he didn't really follow it up with that, but he landed a big shot. But he tries to go for a roll whenever they're like in a clinch, and Bobby gets around his back, and Tony goes for a roll. And Bobby Green catches him in an arm triangle and submits him. Actually, he didn't submit him. Tony Ferguson passed out. So, I don't know, man. Obviously, Bobby Green's a lot faster. He's taking less damage than Tony has, I would say. Or at least the damage he's taken has affected his fighting ability less than Tony's. But, yeah. Tony had his moments, but, you know, he just looked a lot slower than Bobby Green's, and he just couldn't really keep up with them and got out volumed. But, Paddy Pimblett took on Jared Gordon his last fight in the first round. He hit some left hooks. Remember, he's coming forward. He gets cut off on the cage, and then he gets pressed with some left hooks. And Jared Gordon's landing a left hook. It was money. And Paddy, whenever he throws, he'll like throw his hooks like this and have his chin up. And it's like not a good technique. But then he lands some leg kicks and some lead hooks, follows it up with a nice uppercut. But then he shoots a double and a pocket exchange, but then he gets pancakes for it. Then in the second round, he lands a left head kick at range. And then he's able to gets cut off on the fence, and then he eats another left hook, but then he's able to land a lead right hook to the body, but then he eats a left and right hook to the body again, and then he gets doubled off of the fence, and he tries to go for like sort of a front choke, like a rear naked choke from the side. It was interesting. But it was like an arm triangle from the side, I would say, something like that, but he didn't get it. And then he gives up the underhook up against the fence again, but he's able to get back to his feet, so that's a good sign. I don't know how much wrestling Tony's going to be doing, though, but then he's able to land a leg kick and a lunge overhand right, but then he eats a left hook off of his right cross, but he's able to defend the clinch, and he lands some lead hooks, follows it up with an uppercut. Then in the third round, he gives up his back, standing up against the fence. He's able to get up off the double, though, but he gets clinched for the majority of the round. Then he gives up the underhook position on the fence, but then he's able to reverse with a wizard kick and get on top for the end of the fight. And, you know, they gave it to him. I don't think he won, but Jared Gordon did not do enough that fight, so if it's anybody's fault, it's Jared Gordon's, I think. But, you know, Paddy Pimblett minus 340. Tony Ferguson is plus 270. Yeah, dude, I'm not betting minus 340 on Paddy Pimblett. Tony Ferguson, you know, he's taking a lot of damage, but his chin's still decent, and Paddy can crack. But I think Tony can eat his shots if he has to. And honestly, if it goes 3 rounds, I think Tony Ferguson can make Paddy quit. Honestly, I think Tony's I don't know. Maybe Tony's not I think Tony will be able to take him. He might be able to take him down. I think so. And Tony's just nasty on the ground, and Tony's not going to stop. And Paddy Pimblett, you know, he leaves his chin up in the air. Tony can crack still. And Tony's going to be pressuring him the whole fight. And if he can get him up against the fence and pressure him, I think he could win. So, plus 270 for Tony Ferguson. Sign me up. Featured fight of the night at 170 pounds. Men's welterweight, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Number 5, taking on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Number 6. I mean, this is a huge opportunity for either fighter. If Shavkat beats Stephen Thompson in an impressive faction, he might get a title shot. I don't know what they're going to do with Bilal. And if Stephen Thompson can beat Shavkat Rakhmonov, I mean, what would I say about his career? And it has the potential to be an amazing fight. And it's going to be violent for sure. Shavkat Rakhmonov took on Jeff Neal in his last fight in the first round. He eats a 1-2 off of the jab, but he lands some counter right hooks off of a cross in the pocket. And he gets some over-unders, and he looks for the trips, but he can't get them, dude. Jeff Neal is able to defend every trip attempt, very impressive. Then he gets pressed with some 1-2s from range, but he's able to land a counter body shots. But then he rocks him with a right head kick from range. But then he's able to land some right hooks and some knees in the clinch up against the fence. And Shavkat liked to be up against that fence a lot in this fight. Then in the second round, he's able to land some jabs at range, but then he eats some hooks whenever he's walking, trying to get into the clinch up against the fence. He kind of has his hands down a little bit and just kind of like doesn't respect Jeff Neal's power for some reason. But then he lands some uppercuts and an elbow in the clinch off of Jeff's cross. And then he lands a front kick and a body kick, but then he walks into a couple hooks. But then in the third round, he gets rocked with a 1-2 and then a right hook in the pocket early on. And then in the first, he lands a 1-2 and then presses with a single. Then he'll switch to the over-under up against the fence. But then he's able to rock him with the right cross off the hook in the pocket. And then he's able to get the clinch again, land some knees to the body, follows it up with some nasty elbows. Then he's able to get the clincher on the back standing. And then he gets that side choke and submits Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal actually passes out and drops to the ground. So it was a pretty wild fight. But, yeah, dude, he took some damage, but he's able to persevere, and, you know, he got it done. Jeff Neal's a tough opponent. So, Stephen Thompson took on Kevin Holland his last fight. In the first round, he lands a straight left off of the kick, but then he circles, and he lands an overhand off of the hooks, but then he eats a knee in the pocket, clinch situation, but then he gets rocked with an overhand right off of a straight right, and then he eats a couple elbows in the clinch, but, you know, his chin holds up, and then he lands a straight left whenever he gets pressed, so it kind of lean back and pow, like, he loads up, so, like, that straight left is a laser beam. Then in the second round, he lands a left head kick standing at range, but then he blitzes and gets a clinch up against the fence, and then he lands some straight shots, but then he eats a knee for his troubles, just kind of blitzing in, but then he lands a step in straight left, and he kind of circles along the outside, and he throws a lunge straight shot, and then he gets tripped, but Kevin Holland did not capitalize on that. I think Shavkat definitely would, so keep that in mind. But then he lands a spinning back kick to the head, and then he blitzes forward, lands some shots up against the fence. And then in the third round, he lands a jump switch kick to the head, and then he lands a jump 1-2. But then he gets tripped off of that, and I don't know why you would throw a jump 1-2, so maybe don't do that against Shavkat, because, you know, Shavkat's definitely going to be on top of you. Then he's able to land a side kick to the face, and then he leans back and lands a 1-2 counter off of Kevin's hook, and then he lands a straight combo, and he's able to cut off the cage. And Stephen Thompson is plus 500. Shavkat Rakhmonov is minus 700. Now, I think this can be a competitive fight. I think Stephen Thompson can give Shavkat some trouble, but I don't think Stephen Thompson has the power to knock out Shavkat. If Jeff Neal doesn't have the power, I don't think Stephen Thompson does. Stephen Thompson did beat Jeff Neal, however, pretty convincingly. I don't know how much that matters, but, you know, I just think Shavkat's going to be able to get takedowns. Kevin Holland wasn't really trying to take him down, but Gilbert Burns and Bilal Muhammad, whatever, able to take him down. And it all depends on how his get-up game is, on how much he's in the clinch with Shavkat. But yeah, I just see Shavkat kind of having his way, getting the over-unders on the fence. I think he's going to be able to actually take him down with the trips instead of Jeff Neal. So minus 700 is really steep, but I think what's going to happen is this fight's going to go the distance, because the big thing about Shavkat is he's finished everybody. So I think that'll be like Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy's more victory type of thing. So Shavkat Rakhmonov by decision is plus 240. So, you know, pretty good price. And then the whole fight to go to decision is plus 165. So I like that if you want to make some money. And if not, just kind of set it out. But I'm going to go Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think he's going to be the guy at 170. Co-main event of the evening at 125 pounds, men's flyweight for the strap. Alejandro, the Cannibal Pantoja, the new champion, taking on Brandon Raw Dog ROYVAL. This is a rematch from a few years ago. Alejandro did get the submission victory, but Brandon, he has looked good since then. And he's beat everybody he needed to beat. So they're going to do it again, and it's going to be really fun, and it's going to be violent, and I'm excited. Alejandro Pantoja took on Brandon Moreno, his last fight for the title. In the first round, he blitzes, but then he gets passed by, and then off of his shot, and then he gives up the underhook on the fence. But then he eats a 1-2 from range, but then he's able to get the overhook in the clinch, and then he drops him with a step-in left hook counter off of Brandon's hook, and then he lands an overhand, and then he's able to land another lead left hook. And then in the second round, he eats a 1-2 from range off of his hook. And then he eats a 1-2 and gives up the duck under and gives up his back. Brandon Moreno takes Alejandro down, so who saw that one coming? But then he eats some hooks and some overhands in the pocket off of his jab. Just kind of overstepping a little bit. But then in the third round, he rips the body, and then he's able to take his back, get mat return. But then he eats a couple elbows on the way in and busts him open pretty bad. But it's like, you know, he doesn't care. And then he's able to get the body triangle on the back. Then he's back on the feet. He's able to land an uppercut counter off of the jab. And then he rips the body, and he's able to get a body lock trip takedown toward the end there. Then in the fourth round, he eats a left hook to the body, and then an elbow off of a step-in hook. But then he's able to get the double leg again and gets a couple of mat returns and stays on him. But then he eats a couple shots up against the fence off of whenever he's stuffing Brandon's takedowns. He eats some shots in the hook, on some hooks in the pocket up against the fence. But then in the fifth round, he eats some jabs at range, but then he presses with some overhands to the collar tie. But then he eats a couple elbows, but then he's able to step back and get the blast double, and then he's able to jump on the backpack for the remainder of the round. So, yeah, pretty interesting. They both just beat the shit out of each other, basically. And Alejandro can take a shot or two, I'll tell you that. And Alejandro did look pretty gas after the second round, but whenever he's able to get those takedowns and get the back, that's like his rest, and then he's able to kind of like recharge. So I think he'll be good for 5 rounds. Brandon ROYVAL took on Matheus Nicolau his last fight in the first round. He gets pressed with some step-in hooks, but then he's able to land a switch right knee to the face. He doesn't even jump. He just kind of lifts it up and knees the guy in the face and ground and pound TKO. So, you know, I haven't seen that before, but it was incredible. Before that, he took on Matt Schnell in the first round. He circles, and he's able to land a right cross, and he gets pressed with some pumped jabs, but he's able to punch some jabs moving backwards and kind of like Matt Schnell. He's kind of pulling him into him, but then he eats a jab whenever he's coming back, whenever he goes back in. Then he misses the spinning back fist, but then he gets pressed and dropped with a right cross. He goes for the omoplata and then uses a leg lock, and then he gets put into a guillotine, but then he's able to get back up, and they're in like a scramble on the knees, and then he pulls a guillotine from the front headlock position and gets a submission. So he was hurt pretty bad, and Matt Schnell was just overzealous. Brandon Raw Dog was able to scramble, and then Matt Schnell pulled a guillotine for some reason. So, I don't know about Matt Schnell, but Raw Dog will find a way, that's for sure. Brandon ROYVAL plus 170. Alejandro is minus 205. I think this is appropriately lined, especially since Alejandro already beat him. And, you know, 5 rounds. I don't think Brandon's ever gone 5 rounds. And, yeah, Brandon could definitely catch him in a submission or something. Brandon might be able to knock him out, but Alejandro's chin looks decent, I would say. And I just think Alejandro is going to bring the pressure a lot more, and, you know, it seems like Brandon's kind of waiting to catch him in something, and Alejandro is just going to be pressuring him. He knows what he wants to do. He wants to take him down, get the back. He wants to soften him up with some shots, get a takedown, get on the back, look for the rear naked choke or some nasty ground and pound. I think that's what's going to happen. I think the first couple rounds might be tricky, but I think after that, Alejandro is going to be able to get his takedowns, and Brandon's going to get tired because he's going to be using a lot of his energy to go for the submissions. I know Brandon's cleaned up his striking a bit, but, you know, unless he can, I don't think he has like one. Nah, if he like hits like a flying knee or something, but I don't think he's gonna like clip. I don't think he's gonna hurt Alejandro really bad with one shot. So I see Alejandro as the fight goes on, volume, and I think it ends like probably in the 3rd round, maybe 4th round at the most. I just don't see it going very long. So I'm gonna go with Alejandro Pantoja. I think he gets a big confidence boost from beating Brandon Royval. Minus 205, but Pantoja by knockout, plus 400. I don't know why, but submission's only plus 165. I just kind of have a picture of Pantoja just getting a TKO via ground and pound. So, I don't know. Plus 400, not a bad deal, but I'm going to go with Alejandro Pantoja. I think he's going to retain his title. The main event of the evening at 170 pounds, men's welterweight, Leon Rocky Edwards. Don't let him bully you. Taking on Colby Chaos Covington, who does not deserve this title shot at all. But since he weighed in as the backup, they have to give it to him. And Bilal weighed in as the backup for this fight, so they're definitely going to give him that fight, right? Whatever. I don't know why they made this fight. Also, what happens if Colby does beat Leon? Does Kamaru rematch Colby? Because Kamaru beat him 2 times. Colby's been off for almost 2 years now. 1 year and like 9 months or something like that. And his last victory was Jorge Masvidal. So, I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. 2 kind of clashing matchups, similar to like the Usman and Leon matchup. And yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be who's able to implement their game plan more. Colby's going to want to take him down the whole fight, basically. And Leon just going to want to stay up on his feet and jab him and piece him up. Maybe look for a knockout. So I'm excited. Let's break it down. Leon took on Kamaru Usman his last fight for the third time, technically. In the first round, he lands a body kick at range. He's able to stuff the double leg up against the fence. The second round, he backs up. He lands some body and some leg kicks. And then he lands some knees to the head from the tie clinch whenever he gets pressed. And he hurt Kamaru pretty bad with that one, but Kamaru was able to stay up. But then he eats a right cross, standing at range. Then he gets taken out the double off the fence. But then he's able to get right back up. But then he lands some counter left crosses. And Leon basically has his back towards, not up against the fence, but towards the fence. And Kamaru takes the center of the octagon, so I'm assuming that's what's going to happen with Colby as well. But then in the third round, he gets taken down with a snatch, high C crackdown, and then he gets back up, grabs the fence, and they stand him back up on the feet, and he lost a point. So maybe we'll do that again, who knows. But then he's able to land a right hook and a knee to the head toward the end. And then in the fourth round, he lands a left body kick, and he lands a check left hook, and he circles and lands some jabs whenever he gets pressed. But then he gets doubled off the fence again, but then he's able to pop right back up. He lands a jab and a left hook from the clinch, and he's able to stuff the single on the fence, and he's able to grab his wrist. So you can pick up like little details in the grappling that Leon was improving on, and you can see that up against the fence. He was grabbing his wrist and not letting Usman get 2 on 1 leg. So, he's doing better with the defense, and, Usman had a hard time taking him down in these later rounds. And then in the fifth round, he lands a left head kick with his back to the fence. He's able to stuff the double up against the fence with the overhook, and then he lands a left uppercut followed up with a head kick. And he's able to land a counter left uppercut to the body. And then he gets a collar tie, and he lands a knee, and then followed up with an elbow to the head. And, he's kind of vicious in that clinch. And then he gets pressed with the 1-2, and he gets doubled off the fence. Whenever Usman's able to collect his legs together, that's when he's getting taken down. And whenever he has his legs separated, he's probably in good shape. But he was able to get back up. Usman wasn't able to do a whole lot of damage. So, yeah, compared to the last fight, Leon looked a lot better on the ground. He was able to focus on getting up, or not getting taken out, and if he did get taken out, popping right back up. So, and then Colby Covington took on Jorge Masvidal his last fight. In the first round, he lands a right hook and then gets a body lock up against the fence, gets the trip, and then he goes one way and misdirection, goes the other way, and then he's able to get around his back standing, and then he's able to get a mat return, gets one hook in up against the fence. You know how he does, gets his right leg hook in up against the fence, and then he kind of goes for the half-ass rear naked choke and punches him, and he's just going to do that the whole fight. Back up on the feet, he does land a nice 1-2 at range. Then in the second round, he lands a right hook, and then he single/body lock up against the fence, just kind of pressuring him, not trying his hardest for a takedown, and just wearing on Jorge for the later rounds. And he lands a dip overhand lefts, and his single gets stuffed, and he eats an elbow in the clinch. Then he falls off of a kick, and he's able to get a takedown on Jorge with the single off of his knees, even though Jorge was on top. So I hope Leon doesn't try that. Another single attempt gets stuffed with Jorge uses double unders, but then he's able to jab and then get on the single again. But then he eats a hook combination off of a step in, a right cross. And then in the third round, he lands some jabs in a straight right, and then gets a double off the fence right into side control, and is able to take the back, gets one hook in on the fence. And Colby kind of like overextend himself sometimes, and that's when Jorge was able to pop off that 1-2. And Leon's hands are really fast, so I think that might play into the fight. Then in the 4th round, he lands some right hooks off the right hooks and a jab, and shoots a single to the fence again, and then he lands a right uppercut, gets a single to the fence, and he's able to land a left hook and then a head kick and then a straight flurry on the fence. He lands probably like 10 punch combination, I think, something like that. But then he gets dropped with the right hook off of a step-in cross, just overextends himself, and then Jorge's able to pop him. But he only goes to one knee, and he pops right back up. And, you know, he was kind of hurt. He wasn't, like, chasing Jorge down like he was earlier, but Jorge just did not go after him. So he's able to recover pretty well. So I guess Colby's got a decent chin. Then in the 4th round, he lands an overhand left and then a straight right. Another overhand left, gets a single leg off the fence, and he's able to take his back, gets one hook in again. Weak rear naked choke attempts, some ground and pound, not much. Colby Covington is plus 135. Leon Edwards is minus 160. Yeah, this wasn't a hard one for me. I think Leon Edwards is going to win. This fight is a lot similar to the Kamaru fight. I think Colby has more constant pressure, and Usman sits down on his punches more, and he's not as ferocious of the pace because he's also kind of looking for a knockout. Colby's not really looking for a knockout. He's just looking to throw stuff and get the takedown and take his back, kind of like get one hook in and go for the half-ass rear naked choke. So, but I think Leon, you know, his takedown defense looks solid. And Jorge stuffed a good bit of Colby's takedowns, you know, up against the fence, and Leon was able to stuff Kamaru's takedowns up against the fence. And, you know, I think Leon's got a good shot here. And Colby, he doesn't, like, get tired, but he does take, like, kind of sloppy shots. And he kind of overextends himself. And I think Leon might be able to land a head kick or a knee or something like that later on in the fight. I think Leon, he might get taken down in the 1st round or so. But Colby, like, starts out slow and then picks it up as the fight goes on. I think Leon might be able to land some significant shots in the first couple rounds. And then who knows if it goes to the 5th or something like that, but I think Leon can put some rounds in the bank. We'll see, but that head kick is deadly. That knee in the pocket's deadly. I think he throws some knees up the middle, and he's able to pop back up even if he does get taken down. And, you know, as long as he can separate off the clinch, that's going to be kind of the story. If he's able to just get away from him and stay at range when he's in the clinch, that'll be huge. But I think he can do it, and I think he's going to land, just kind of piece him up, and I think the damage might accumulate over the course of the fight. Is he going to knock him out? I don't know. Leon typically doesn't knock people out, so we'll see. But I think if it gets to the 4th and 5th, that'll be interesting. I'm curious to see if it goes past the 3rd round. That'll be interesting. But, you know, Leon's a champion. He got a lot of confidence from beating Kamaru twice. It's a similar style matchup for him. Minus 160, not a bad deal. I'm going to go with Leon Edwards. I think he retains. Leon by knockout, plus 275, maybe. But, yeah, well, I'm definitely going with Leon. All right, everybody, thanks for riding with me. Appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what's going on. Pretty crazy card. Unfortunately, we didn't get all the fights we were supposed to get, but still exciting. Let me know who you got for the winners. Let's see some upsets. Let's see some violence. Let's see some profits. Good luck, everyone.